right, now we're recording. Andy Gordon with Patriot Epoxy, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Where are you at?
In Charleston, South Carolina.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I like
nice
Charleston.
location.
I like Charleston a lot. Haven't spent a lot of time there, but Charleston and Savannah or Savannah is one of my wife's favorite places to go. I like going there too, but I think I would prefer Charleston
Yeah,
than
yeah.
Savannah.
Charleston seems a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit more to do.
Yeah. Well, I think Savannah is really kind of condensed down to like the historic downtown Savannah. Like you get outside of that and it's just a traditional like Georgia town,
Yeah,
but the the squares, the old town squares down there, that's kind of where everything is at. So
right.
we were down there in January. I went for work and she at the last minute decided to come with me, and so we made like a working vacation of it.
hmm Yeah.
So you're in Charleston, South Carolina, Patriot Epoxy. How long you been in the business?
Just over 3 years.
Just over 3 years. Okay. And prior to that, what did you do?
Yeah, I kind of have a interesting story. I never would have imagined myself 5, 7 years ago that I would have been doing this, but I have an engineering background and really had done engineering management like in a factory setting
Hmm.
before this, and factory closed. Ended up doing some manufacturing consulting work, and one thing led to another. Got inspired to try an epoxy flooring business, and here we are.
Gotcha. Are you originally from Charleston?
No, I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama. So I went to college at the University of Alabama,
Hmm.
and then moved to Philadelphia for a few years after that, kind of pursuing stuff for my degree. And
Hmm.
opportunity came up for promotion and to move back to the South. So
Gotcha.
I said I'll take it to be closer to friends, family, barbecue, etc. Warmer weather.
I gotcha. Now, when you started the epoxy company, did you start one or did you join a crew or partner with somebody and then kind of like went on your own?
No, no, I started right out. I had no experience. I did some financial analysis and some competitor analysis to see who it was in my local area that I would be going up against, and I did I did work a couple days with a guy I was familiar with and had actually hired before
Hmm.
when I was at the factory to do some floors there up in Myrtle Beach. So I did a couple days with him before making a decision on whether or not this was something that I wanted to give a try. And then, like all of the forums don't advise, I did one of those 2 day training classes
Yeah.
and some friends and family floors, and then went out and started doing customer floors.
What kind of equipment did you start with?
I really copied both products and process from the guy in Myrtle Beach and what he recommended. So I started out with one Scan Maskin 18-inch grinder, which with its weight kit, I think is like 250 pounds.
Hmm.
A Ermator S26 vacuum, and then just a small enclosed generator.
Hmm.
So all in all, I think my total investment up front, let's say I had $10,000 in equipment, plus I want to say it was like $25,000 in a vehicle. So I bought it was a 2018 Ram ProMaster
Hmm.
van. So bought a ramp to put everything in and out of. Ended up being, that setup is like it's good for porches, patios, small garages with soft concrete.
Hmm.
But kind of as I've learned throughout the process, like really need to get
Yeah.
bigger equipment to be more efficient. But just starting out having the 110-volt equipment where you can plug in and work anywhere was was very versatile, very
Yeah.
helpful.
Mm. Now, and then what kind of epoxy were you using? back then.
Yeah, so we started out using Carboline, which I believe purchased Dudic at some point before I started. So for epoxies, we would use Dudic, Sterafloor GP, and I actually still use a lot of that to this day. I've tried a bunch of different epoxies, and that one is really hard to beat. It comes
Mhm.
pre-pigmented, and for like outdoor jobs, smaller stuff that needed to be one day, I used Carbline's. I
Mhm.
think it's Carboseal 985 polyaspartic,
Mhm.
100% solids. And I had been using that for top coat too, 100% solids,
Mhm.
clear. I didn't want to add anything to the process that we could screw up. So I wasn't using xylene or anything in my top coat either, which made things more difficult than it needed to be, especially
Yeah.
with the heat down here. But we made it through, found some level of consistency, and then ended up changing to a different polyaspartic that was a little bit slower, thinner, easier to work with.
Gotcha. Okay. And when you started, did you start by yourself or did you have a partner? Did you have a helper? Did you, friends and family would help at first and then you hired a
Yeah,
full-time guy? How did that go?
yeah. So my intent has never been to be the one who's out there doing everything.
Mhm.
I really enjoy the back end, building the business, the
Mhm.
strategy, the processes. So, eventually I'd like to open some more businesses, and I don't want to be the point person every day out in
Mhm.
the field. So I actually hired two people full time, really before I even started the business, but they were people who I was familiar with and had worked with for 4 or 5 years in that factory
Mhm.
setting. So they had been CNC machine operators and assemblers. So those two guys were trusting enough to take the leap and work with me for a couple of years.
Now, when you started, did you have some capital set aside for all this? Did you have to take out a loan or what? Where were you
Yeah,
at with that? Did you start out
I
in debt?
yeah, I did start out in debt. So this is one thing that I think can be incredibly beneficial to people hearing is, I had a great credit score.
Mhm.
Both my wife and I thought that getting business credit, okay, like it won't be that hard. I'm sure I won't get $100,000, but should be able to get something. And what I quickly found out was that credit score doesn't mean a lick when you're starting a business. Doesn't matter at all. Unless you have 2 years worth of tax returns, nobody will loan the business money
Mhm.
because it's just they don't know what they're investing in. So I ended up purchasing. Uh, well, I ended up getting a personal loan for $25,000. It was like a home improvement loan
Yeah.
that I actually used for the business, and that bought that bought most of my equipment, my initial supplies, and then the Ram ProMaster was a personal vehicle loan. Like it was my own. So um, both of those I still actually have to this day. Um, but yeah, they helped me get started and ended up eventually having to take some more draws, like out of a 401k. But
Yeah.
uh, kind of did what I had to do to to figure it out in the beginning and get to a point where I could make money and start paying some of that stuff back.
Yeah. I like those Ram ProMaster vans. I have one. I use it for my daily like I do a lot of maintenance work on floors, like just like small stuff,
Yeah,
and I use it every day for that. Not right now. The AC went out, and I'm not driving it without AC. So
yeah, yeah,
we're going out of town in like a week, and I intend to drop it off at the shop and get that AC fixed while we're out of town.
yeah. It's been pretty good to me. I think we've probably put like 130,000 miles on it over the
Hmm.
course of just over 3 years. And I think I've had to replace the transmission and I want to say like, some coolant lines or something like that. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's worked. It's been good. Especially like you said, for that small stuff where like you just need the versatility.
Hmm.
especially like if you're working downtown or in neighborhoods that have alleys. It's much better for that than a box truck.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. So what kind of equipment are you running now?
Yeah. So now, well, when I ended up scaling, I ended up just purchasing more and more of the Scan Maskin
Hmm.
18-inch machines. And at one point, I had three of those. I ended up selling one of them and buying a 23-inch Nika brand machine, which is just, I think it's just like a private labeled 240-volt electric machine. Instead of weighing 250 pounds like the Scan Maskins, this is like roughly 550 pounds, 575 with the weight kit. So it's definitely a step up from what I had. I also have a Generac 15 or 17,000 um, watt generator, and that's certainly helpful as well to provide enough power at the job sites.
Yeah.
So now I've got two Scan Maskins, uh, a bunch of small generators sitting in my garage that are very difficult or impossible to repair,
Hmm.
and then I've got two 240-volt generators that can provide power for that big machine.
Are you guys doing mostly like residential stuff, or do you guys tap into
Yeah,
the commercial market yet? Or
yeah. So starting out, I would say the first like year and a half, 2 years, we were probably 92% residential.
hmm.
And I've tried to grow the commercial side, which much easier said than done.
Yeah, yeah.
In terms of, and the values I'm giving you are in terms of number of jobs, not like dollar value total, because that's can be very skewed. But
Yeah,
number of jobs, at this point, we're probably 80 to 85% residential.
yeah.
But on a dollar basis, I want to say probably 70%, like 65, 70% of the dollar value comes from residential.
Yeah. Getting commercial stuff is kind of hard unless you can kind of get in with a business that has multiple locations or a bunch of locations, like a franchise, where you can kind of go around and do all
Yeah.
their stuff. I've been fortunate. I have a tire shop I do work for, and it started out with just three. Now I have I started out with three, and now I do all of their floors, and they have like 200 locations.
Oh, wow.
Now included in that is just general cleaning, like floor maintenance, but then there's also the VCT removal and epoxy as well whenever they want it done. So
Yeah.
it's it's one of the blessings that's ever happened to me is getting in with them. That it
Yeah.
kind of changed everything for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And we've got some residential home builders that we work with. That's
oh, that
been
helps too. Yeah.
that's been really beneficial. Like we just did a job earlier this week with a guy who does most of his work. I think he mostly does renovations
Hmm.
as opposed to like ground up builds, but most of the renovations that he does are on elevated homes,
Hmm.
which are really popular here. And you think about an elevated home, like footprint for that underneath the house is typically anywhere between like, let's say on the low side 1,200 square feet. Um, High side can be like 3 to 4,000 square feet.
Hmm.
So they're pretty decent sized jobs when you get them.
Yeah. Hmm. Now, what's your crew like these days? You still got the same two guys, and then I'm assuming you got more at this point.
Yeah. So unfortunately, the two guys that started with me were really good friends when they started. Thought that they would probably be a package deal,
Yeah.
when they came and when they left, and I huge help those guys were. Like I never could have done this without them, their loyalty, working through the hard failures that we had of floors not drying, the
Yeah.
first little bit. But yeah, they stayed with me for I guess it was pretty close to 2.5 years actually.
Mhm.
And within 6 or 8 weeks, both of them ended up leaving. One of them was moving and wanted to get back into CNC machining, and the other found a different job that was just much higher than I could end up paying.
Yeah.
So that was a very stressful time when they left, and I was searching for more. I had a third person at the time who had been with me for like 2 months,
Mm.
and they ended up being incredibly unreliable. And unfortunately, like their unreliability hit, like started getting worse right
Yeah.
when these two left. So it was a nightmare. I mean, I had to go out and do jobs and try to find friends and other people who could help me, just do the work that was on the schedule. Um, but I ended up hiring a few more people, putting them through a training process. Had somebody come down from Charlotte and help train the guys for a week. So um, yeah, I've got three full time people now that I keep them extremely busy, and I have part time labor that can come in here and there to assist if needed.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that sucks losing two people really quickly. Not only two people, but your two key people. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I have subs that work for me. Like everybody that works for me are subs. I don't have any employees, but they're pretty much my employees because they only work for me. Um, and they use all my equipment, and it is what it is. But I know there's been times in the past when I've lost people, and I stress out because I don't know how am I going to replace it because we do everything. We do epoxy. We do polished concrete. We also do VCT, like stripping and waxing, which was the bulk of my business for years. So dad started the company in the 80s and then he retired a few years back. I bought him out.
mm,
And a lot of our, almost all of our budgeted work comes from VCT. And so like trying to get guys that can actually, and they have to work independent. They can't, I'm not there holding their hands. No one else is there holding it. You got to find someone who can show up when they're supposed to show up, and then do the job without
mm,
having to have their hand held the whole time. And that's so hard to find.
yeah,
And it's stressful as a business owner. Like, all right, now I've lost this guy. I got to find somebody else. How am I going to find some stranger off the street to trust with my business?
yeah,
It's scary.
yeah. It is, and I've kind of always had the strategy of, I want people who can be good with customers so that I don't have to have a project manager, there all the time, or a salesperson there all the time,
Yeah.
starting and closing out the jobs. So I've really focused on hiring not necessarily people with experience. Like very few of the people I've hired have had any experience with flooring,
Hmm.
but more so people who are reliable, good, both written and verbal communicators, and have a good attitude. Because I can teach anybody anything. It might take an extra couple weeks, but I'd rather have that than a poor attitude who you know is not super reliable.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. You can all. I would rather train someone my way of doing it than have them have their own way of doing it.
Mhm.
Generally speaking. Because sometimes they have bad habits. Sometimes they have great habits. But it's like I want it done this way.
Yeah,
That's how I like it to be done.
yeah.
So starting out, how hard was it? Like, what was the first 6 months like? Was it feast or famine?
No, actually, it wasn't. Um, I was surprised at how quickly it took off
Hmm.
in terms of sales. That said, the installs don't go perfectly. Like
Hmm.
uh, starting out, I forget what the exact situation was, but I had my mix ratio off. I think it was on top coat,
Hmm.
and so the friends and family jobs went fine, but the first floor that we did for a customer ended up not drying, so we had to put sand and grind it off.
Hmm.
We did it again. again, the wrong mix ratio, again,
Oh my
send it
goodness.
off, contact the supplier or manufacturer and like, hey, I need help troubleshooting. Figured out what it was, got it corrected. But of course, then, I think we started doing customer floors in like May, maybe.
Mhm.
So, these repairs are in May or June and it's extremely hot outside,
Yeah.
hot and humid in Charleston. And, at that point, customers pissed, your guys are pissed.
Mhm.
So that ended up being a challenge. But we got better and better. Um, it was just physically, I'll say it was physically taxing. And then, of course, at that point, I don't have help on the sales side, so I'm going uh, to sales calls. I'm answering the phone, driving all around the place, still trying to help the guys with the job. Ordering materials. So it was very taxing in that regard, but at the same time, encouraging and exhilarating because the sales hit almost immediately
Yeah.
and really took off.
What
So yeah,
what were you using to market yourself back then?
at that point, um, I had created a website. That was one of the things in my competitor analysis that I thought I could do a lot better.
Mhm.
So I spent a lot of time creating a good website, did some of my own SEO on the website, created a Google My Business page, posted pictures, got a couple of reviews. Um, at some point, very early on, I also started using Google Ads and found that to be really beneficial. And to this day, that is my best. I'll say that and my website are the best kind of marketing. It's a little bit hard to differentiate, like how much of that Google traffic um, or the Google ads is what's providing people to my website versus organic. I mean, I guess I could go in and look at that to an extent, but those two things paired with each other have by far been the most successful thing.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. Like you are the third person in the last 2 weeks that have specifically said Google Ads was almost the linchpin that changed things. From
Yeah,
um, you said Google Ads is still a good tool for you to get your leads. And I spoke with a guy just yesterday. Same thing. He said he was slow, and then he started using Google Ads, and then he couldn't answer the phone fast enough.
yeah.
And
Well, 'cause-
then I spoke with someone else recently as well. I can't remember who it was. I need to find it, but he was talking Google Ads. So maybe Google Ads is the way to go.
yeah. So I had written down marketing as something that I think could be a good focus or a little bit focus of this conversation. Um, you know, there are so many. I have tried everything in terms of marketing. Like I'll spend $1 and I'll try it, and if it doesn't work, I cut it. But
Mhm.
I have done um, I have done print, like magazines that go out to neighborhoods. I have done mailers, Valpak, other little coupon books that are a little bit higher end than Valpak that go out.
Mhm.
Um, I haven't tried radio or TV. Um, I've done Yelp, Angie's List, Google Ads, Facebook. Uh, I've hired a Facebook marketing person a few times to just try it because I was unsuccessful doing it. Um, so yeah, I've tried just about everything under the sun, and and really keep coming back to, at the end of the day, one of the only ones I've had that has successfully created a positive ROI has been the Google Ads.
I tried Angie's List a couple years ago, and it was a nightmare. Like I had like it wasn't a nightmare, but like they were very misleading with their policies. And like so they took my money, the startup money that's supposed to go towards the leads, right? And nearly 2 weeks went by, I didn't get one lead. Like I signed up 2 weeks, not one lead came through. And thought, well, after like 3 or 4 days, I think, well, I'll let me be respectful of them and give them time. I don't want to just jump the gun after 3 or 4 days and say, let's cancel this. So I wait and I wait and I wait and I wait and wait. 2 weeks rolled by. Finally, I said, all right, enough's enough. They told me I could get out. If I wasn't happy, I could get a refund. 2 weeks, no leads. So I call, say, all right, yeah, I've been on with 2 weeks, no leads. I'd like to just get a refund. And then, of course, they, clicking around on the computer. Oh no, looks like we made an error on our end and you actually weren't live yet. Let me go ahead and turn you on. That way you can go ahead and start receiving leads. I said, nah, at this point, I think I want my money back because it was like $1,000.
Yeah,
That was what their startup fee was at the time. I don't know why $1,000.
yeah, that's on up there.
It was extremely high, but my thought was, well, I get one garage and I'll make my money back. You know, um, hopefully I'm getting more than that. But anyhow, I was like, no, I don't think so. And then they're like, well, the terms of the agreement is you can only get a full refund within the first 3 days of signing up. Oh, well, that wasn't included in the original conversation we had. And anyhow, long story short, I had to go around and around with them, had to go up to a supervisor, had to go up to that supervisor's supervisor. And she basically said, we can give you a full refund if we can prove that you did not, that no one told you about the 3 days. And they said, the only way that we can do that is to go listen to your previous phone conversations. I said, do it. And it took like about another week or two for them to contact me. I said, well, yeah, it seems like no one really specified that to you. And then they ended up giving me my money back. But from me paying the $1,000 to actually getting it back was about 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah,
And then I tried Yelp, and I had better results with Yelp, but I ultimately canceled it because I got like one or two jobs from Yelp in about a month period, which was nice, but my phone rang off the hook with other people trying to sell me marketing stuff
yeah,
because I was on Yelp, and I got tired of that real quick. So it's
yeah,
not worth it.
yeah. We've always had an issue with that. The spam calls and the solicitation is insane. I mean, it's probably 50% or more of our call volume.
Hmm.
But I'll tell you, so I, if you can't tell by now, like I'm a big numbers guy. Like
Yeah.
numbers is kind of what started this and driven it. And I keep pretty good track of a bunch of different things. But I found the same problem with both Angie's List and Facebook, and that somebody submits a form
Mhm.
and you get the lead information with both of those sources. If I then immediately, like within 10 minutes, go try to reach out to the customer who has submitted the form,
Hmm.
I have a lot of trouble getting in touch with them. Like
Hmm.
with both Angie's List and Facebook, of people who submit that form, I'm only able to schedule visits with like 50 to 60% of them.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to say I have a 49 leads and we sold.
You're kind of cutting in and out, Andy.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it seems to have came back. There was about a 15-second pause there where nothing came through.
Oh, okay. My bad. So with Angie's List and Facebook, like Angie's List, I've had 249 leads and only sold 11% of them.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. And you have a lot of trouble like scheduling visits with those people where people who come through our website have a much higher percentage. So like same time period, I have 703 leads, and uh, my win percentage on those leads is 28%. If I make a visit, then my win percentage is 35%. But I'm able to schedule visits with 93 to 95% of those people who either call in or submit a form online through our website. So
Yeah.
I think that's the big difference is are you actually able to schedule visits with the people who submit lead forms?
Yeah. And what's your success rate with Google, would you say?
So I classify Google and website as the same in the dashboard that I use. So that would be the numbers I just said of 703
Gotcha,
leads.
gotcha.
Yeah, closed 28% of those.
Yeah. Okay. And you've discovered Google early on and you're still utilizing it now.
Yeah, yeah, and in fact, I'll probably as we add services, I'll
Mhm.
probably throw more money at Google. So like right now, the ad spend is really focused on residential flake,
Mhm.
and to a certain extent, like there's a little bit of money in there for commercial,
Mhm.
but we're doing some polished concrete that aren't in the ads yet.
Mhm.
We're doing some like storage solutions
Mhm.
and garage renovations that are not in there yet. So eventually, I'll end up upping that spend.
Gotcha. Now, if we have someone out there listening that's interested in getting in the business or thinking about making the jump to do it on their own, what kind of advice are you gonna offer to the new guys out there?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is I think your equipment and what you're going to use to grow uh, is important. So number one, get yourself a good setup. It doesn't need to be oversized, but like truck and trailer that you can load a 23 or 25-inch machine in and out of would be super helpful. The next is watch your marketing spend and where you're spending it, because I have wasted an incredible amount of marketing dollars that I never saw return on.
Hmm.
And then I think the third is pretty early on, you need to figure out what your long term goal is. Like, do you want to collect as much money as possible and be the person doing it all, staying up late at night, driving all around the city, doing the jobs, all that kind of stuff? Or do you want to be on the back end? And once you once you have a little bit of success, go ahead and start training people so that it's not such a drastic change
Hmm.
when you decide that you want to take that route. So I've got I've gotten have really had a sales team and a customer support person uh, for quite a while, for most of the time I've been in business.
Gotcha. So what's a floor that you're proud of that you started out with and you were kind of iffy on and then you just had great success on it?
I would say I would say we've had a lot. Uh, I mean, I really enjoy. I would say the homeowners who are, and most of our businesses, people who are moving into new to them homes. So they're already excited about their new home. Maybe they're moving across town or from out of state or whatever. But um, I really like the larger elevated homes.
Yeah.
Where you're spending 4 or 5 days there. A 2,500 square foot job, but you're there doing residential flake.
Yeah.
Um, to me, that's the easiest to work with. It makes a huge transformation. It's probably easier to do than some of the other flooring types. But yeah, I would say we have a lot of jobs like that I'm really proud of.
So what's next? It seems like you're growing. You're you finally have some people that you feel like you can rely to do the business, and you can kind of sit back and grow the business and scale it. What's next for Patriot Flake or Patriot Epoxy?
Yeah, yeah, Patriot Epoxy. So I think what's next is to tackle more of the larger commercial jobs,
Yeah.
while at the same time doing some more of the garage renovation work. So
Mhm.
I've now got subs who can paint garages and do some repairs, scrape popcorn ceiling. So we've sold a few of those jobs.
Yeah.
We're doing some slat wall, some overhead storage, some cabinets, uh, lighting solutions for a garage. So it's probably to move into those areas and to
Mhm.
start marketing that through Google Ads. But I really want the newer guys that I have to be completely comfortable and very efficient
Mhm.
with the flake systems because that's our bread and butter
Mhm.
before really advancing to too much of the other stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You gotta take care of home first and make sure
Yeah,
that's settled. So you're doing full blown garage like upscaling, like
yeah. Like our larger recent project for garage renovation was scrape popcorn ceiling, paint, install 12 recessed lights,
Mhm.
two 4x8 slat wall panels, overhead storage, two kayak lifts,
Mhm.
rebuild his stairs in his garage. Of course, the flake floor coating. So yeah, it was. Oh, and a big set of cabinets.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a nice sell, and I feel like you're probably able to pull more money out of a floor when you do all that because that job when I ended up the totals, it ended up being like low 20s. And I just thought to myself, for everything we're doing for him, that seems really, really cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, 20 grand's not expensive, or not, it's not super expensive. It's not also not anything to sneeze at. For that level of work, it just,
For a garage.
yeah, it appeared to me like, you do a kitchen renovation. The kitchen renovation is easily 30 grand.
Yeah. Are you do you I'm assuming being right there on the coast, Charleston, a lot of the houses are on full slabs. They're not on foundations, right?
Uh, that's correct. Well, a lot of the garages are slabs, and then the homes will have a crawl space.
Oh, so the homes do have a crawl space.
Yes, yeah,
Okay. Have you had the opportunity to work on any of the old concrete, like because Charleston being an old town?
yeah. So we do very little business, I would say, downtown and like the older areas.
Hmm.
Um, Probably the oldest that we've done actually had a really cool story. It's a beer headquarters, like their main office, and they wanted to create like this. I guess like this lounge area with like a tiki bar and the general directions for the project was that he wanted as much patina as possible.
Yeah.
So we pulled up the carpet, ground through the adhesive, and found just like a lot of coloration
Hmm.
within the slab. And I believe the building used to be like an old jail. Um, and we ended up just putting like a clear down for the coat, and it
Yeah.
really brought out and like accented all the colors.
Yeah.
Uh,
I've done that before too, where it's almost like a polished concrete, where you grind
yeah,
it and just put a clear on it and let it roll.
yeah. It was really neat. That was a project that you start it and you're like, I don't know where this is going to go, but you put down that coat and it looks glossy and wet, and you're like, yeah, this is
I
this is
really those are almost my favorite jobs. Almost not really because I stress out. Like when you're halfway through with it or three-quarters of the way through with it, and you're like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. Like I'm having my doubts, and then you put your final product on there, and it just all comes together, and
yeah,
you're pleasantly surprised.
yeah,
And I still have that. I still have that stress out moment when I'm putting the color. I'll put epoxy on a garage floor before you put the flake down, and I'll be like, this looks terrible. like, like why am I like I'm gonna have to redo this whole thing? And then we start putting the flake down. The moment the flake hits the floor, it changes it.
yeah,
It
yeah.
just changes. It's like
We,
every time I have that panic moment where I'm like, because I'm still, I've been doing flake floors, I guess as long as you have now, about 3 years. And but I have this long background of VCT, and I can tell you what a floor is going to look like before before we strip the floor. I can tell you what it's going to look like when we're done, for the
yeah,
most part.
yeah.
Whereas with a concrete floor, with when you're grinding off a sealer and then having to patch cracks, and you don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, yeah,
And then and then for me, there's just always that not necessarily a panic moment, but a disappointing moment where I'm like, oh, this just does not look as good as I think it's going to look. And then we start throwing that flake down. Boom, problem
yeah,
solved.
yeah. Everything's fixed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have that a lot with stain and seals. So
Yeah.
like we had a customer last week uh, who wanted a stain, wanted a particular color. So we put it down, and before it had any sealer on it, I said, "Hey, like I could be happier with this floor. I want you to make sure that you like it before we put sealer down because we still have the option to go just like solid color,
Yeah.
solid color floor." And I said, "I know you're going to think it looks terrible right now because it's not sealed and there's not a lot of color to it, and you probably don't recognize that there's stain on it now. But
Hmm.
take a step out on it, put a little bit of water on the floor, wipe it around with your hand. That wet concrete look is going to be, with all the coloration that it brings out, is going to be what the floor looks like when it has a sealer on it. So if you like that, we're good. If not, let's talk about transitioning to something else now." And I think one other good point is you asked about new business owners getting into this and like what I would advise them. The other thing I would advise is with metallics. I don't do metallics.
Hmm.
I try to stick to floors in general that you either do it right or you do it wrong. And flake is very much that. Like, there's a
Hmm.
proper way to do it. With metallics, customer might have one image over here. You might have a floor that you do that you think matches up to what they want, and it ends up not because it's more artistic than like a flake is. And you can end up having to redo floors multiple times, throws your whole schedule off if you have to do more than you anticipate. So
Yeah.
another point is really recognize, like, do you or do you not want to do some of this more artistic stuff, knowing the impact that it can have to you financially and in terms of your schedule, and like if something goes wrong, having to back up some of your other customers.
Yeah. Yeah. I like. I've only done two metallic floors, and but I did have pretty good results from the owners. Like they were really happy with them. I
Yeah,
at first again, I was like, I don't know about this, but it all kind of pulled together, and both times the owners were really happy with it. So
yeah, yeah. And you have to be meticulous, I think, as well about not getting stuff in your coats.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, like if you have a roller or a brush up against the edge and you pull out some drywall dust,
yeah,
it'll screw up a floor pretty quick.
yeah. I don't around here. I don't really see metallic floors being a big deal in the Chattanooga area. Like, I mean, there's I just don't know who's wanting it.
Yeah,
The customers I did it for before were actually people I knew, and one was a restaurant, and one was just a room in this a friend of mine's house, and
yeah,
so it wasn't really that big a deal. But I don't know. I just being in Chattanooga my whole life, I don't think I've ever walked into a business and seen a metallic floor. The artistic style metallic floor. Maybe I have. I just don't remember it. But more
yeah,
of flake floor. You see flake floors all over the place. You see polished concrete all over the place.
yeah.
Seen, you know, clear epoxy polished concrete all over the place. So
Yeah, I would say most common for commercial around here is probably polished concrete.
yeah.
Um, I don't see many flake floors commercially,
Hmm.
um, but in fact, if I had to guess, I probably see more metallic floors commercial than I do flake floors. But that makes up a very small percentage. And then, yeah, on the residential side, most of the time when you start talking to people about, hey, just FYI, a flake floor is going to be $6, $7 a square foot, whatever, and a metallic or marble look floor, you're probably twice that. You know,
Yeah.
Customers pretty quickly are like, oh, okay, I like flake well enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you found that the market for flake floor is the demand for it's going up, therefore the price is kind of going down, or is it the opposite?
um, I'm gonna say it's probably a combination. So, when we started, I did the competitor analysis, and there were people. I think it was like as cheap as 475 a square foot and up to like 850 a square foot for like a 450 square foot garage. And ended up, a lot of those smaller or like the lower price people end up falling out, close their doors. Um, but I think that demand continues to go up, and there are still those people who are like 525 a square foot. People who come out of town from like Augusta area, and they'll do 6 floors in a week here or whatever. But I think the reputation of the people who have been in business here for 2+ years has gotten good enough that the pricing has stabilized, if not maybe taken a little step up.
So I went and I quoted a job about a week or so ago, and we put him on the schedule, but he didn't want to do it till July. So there's months down the road before we actually do them. But he was asking me about my price, and I think my price is pretty competitive. I'm certainly not the most expensive. I'm certainly not the cheapest. I think I'm just right where I need to be. And
Yeah.
he was asking about the price. I said, well, feel free to shop around. I said, have you Googled it? He said, no. So I pulled up Google and I said, what's the common price for an epoxy flake garage floor? And Google says between $4 and $11 a foot. And then he pulled it up on Chat GPT and asked Chat GPT, what's the most common prices for a flake garage floor?
Mhm.
And Chat GPT told him $3 a foot to $12 a foot. I'm like, those are huge gaps.
Yeah.
If you're getting $12 a foot to do a flake floor in a garage, good for you, man.
Yeah. And the $3 a square foot, those are the painters doing the DIY kits.
They're doing the acid etch and then just dropping a Rust-Oleum kit on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Do you price based on square footage, or do you have like a does yours move based on the like how big a space you're doing?
So if it's over like 1,000 square feet, I will I will drop it down a little bit, but up like I have this is what from 0 to 1,000 square foot is, and then I have my minimum. Like
Yeah.
um if my minimum is like I'm even if you're well under that, that's what I'm not leaving the house for less than that.
Yeah.
But the bigger it gets, the cheaper the price can be because with those tire shops that do some of their so all I'm doing is their customer waiting areas, like their maybe a bathroom or two, and so they're usually between 1,000 to 2,000 square foot, sometimes less, sometimes more. Um, but I do try to be because that's how it always is with VCT. The bigger the project gets, the least the price per square foot is going to go down.
Sure. Yeah.
So like with VCT, let's just say 1,000 square foot. If I'm going to strip it, I'm only going to get $1 a foot. That's $1 a foot, but I can do it by myself in 2 hours, 3 hours max. Um, then if you go up to say 5,000 square foot, you're not going to get $1 a foot off that. There's no chance. You might get a quarter a foot off that. So, but
Wow.
it's wild. The marketing for VCT to epoxy is wildly different. VCT, the market is just flooded with people doing it, just flooded, and anybody can do it. Any business owner can go to Home Depot and rent a swing machine with a black pad and get Zep floor stripper and Zep wax off the shelf and do it themselves. Or they can hire their cousin to do it who's never done it
Mhm.
before.
Yeah.
Whereas epoxy, you got to have a little bit of you either have to be really researched and have some money to get started, or you have to have experience to kind of get
Right.
into it.
Yeah.
So, but well, we are rolling up on an hour here, sir. So I think we're going to start wrapping it up. Any final things you'd like to feel like you'd like to advise people on? Because it seems like you know what you're doing, and I've enjoyed talking with you because you seem
Yeah,
really successful, and that's what I like talking. I like to talk to the people who started from nothing and have really have something to show for it now because it
yeah,
inspires me to do a little to push myself a little bit more and might inspire listeners to do the same thing.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, I guess the couple things that I would say, I touched on it a little bit just a second ago by asking you that question, but I think pricing is really important. Not to feel like you need, coming in, you don't need to be the lowest price. Just like price yourself average and then try to figure out where you need to go. But to know your numbers, know your cost, um, and and kind of where you want to be.
Yeah.
Especially those smaller jobs. Like if you're doing 200 square feet, like you can't charge the same as you would for like a 600 or 700 square foot garage. Like
Yeah.
if you actually run the numbers on it, you're going to be hurting if you fill your schedule up with 200 square foot areas
Yeah.
that don't hit a good minimum. So I would say that, and then do your research before you get into it and know your numbers, know where you're going to get the money from. And I wouldn't, if I had to do it all over again, honestly, I would probably try to find one of the businesses. I mean, it may even be like a floor cleaning business that has 2 years worth of tax returns, where like there's something there for you to be able to get some business credit
Mhm.
instead of trying to self finance it, because it's been a little bit stressful. But
Here's another thing I'm always curious about. Your competitors in your area. Do you have a relationship with any of your competitors?
oh, yeah, that's a great question. Um, yes, I would say about half of my competitors I have relationships with, where like I call them. Some I have used as a sub sometimes. Like we've got one in the area who does a lot more commercial work than I do, so I brought him in on some of the stuff that I've never had not dealt with at the point in times where I was doing some floors, and others who I kind of bounce ideas off of. Um, and yeah, we see our salespeople see each other at estimates and stuff like that. So yeah, I do have a relationship with about 50% of them.
I find that it's helpful. Like I try to have at least a friendly relationship with it. That way they know I'm here and I
Hmm.
know they're there. And um, with epoxy, I don't know that many guys. I know like probably like three guys in Chattanooga, but
Hmm.
there's a bunch that do it. Whereas it comes to VCT, I know everybody that does it.
Yeah.
I know if you're putting a mop on the floor, I almost know who you are. Um,
Yeah.
and
And it's also,
it
I don't know if it's the same way with cleaning supplies, but with flake blends, there are so many out there
oh yeah,
that, from time to time, I'll have somebody reach out and say, "Hey, do you have such and such blend flake?" Or, "Hey, man, I ran out of polyaspartic and our local supplier doesn't have any.
yeah.
Do you have some I can buy?" And it's like, yeah, I'll help people out, and I'm happy to to lower some of my excess inventory when possible.
Well, it costs nothing to create a network with people.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. So someone calls me, "Hey, can you do it?" This happened just Wednesday. Wednesday evening, I get a phone call from a guy who actually just no, he sent me a Facebook message. He follows me on Facebook because I do a lot of content creation for my business, and he follows me, and he's from Huntsville,
Okay.
Alabama. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he sends me a Facebook message. Hey, can you call me when you get a chance? And I told him, I said, it's going to be a little while. I don't, but yeah, a couple hours went by. I gave him a call. He had a grocery store down in Henniger, Alabama. They were needing just a floor scrub and wax, but they needed it the next day. The crew that was going to do it
Oh,
backed out, and I was trying to figure out if I could do it. If I could, I already had work scheduled in Atlanta, and I was trying to figure out how I can make it work. But you know
yeah.
what? At the end of the day, I decided it's not worth my time to stress out about it. It's a job I've never done before. I don't know what I'd be walking into. I just pushed through with the work I already had scheduled.
Mhm.
But it cost me $0. I called a buddy of mine who lives right around the corner from me, also does floors, put him in contact with him, and now he did the job.
Hmm.
Cost me nothing.
Yeah.
And now I don't want to say that he owes me one. Roberto, you owe me one. But but you know, when something happens and he's in the same situation, maybe he'll call me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like to, that's another reason why I started this podcast. I like to have a network of people. Like it just never hurts. Who's to say I don't want to go take my family to Charleston, South Carolina this year? And maybe I call up Andy Gordon and say, "Hey, I'm coming to Charleston.
Yeah.
Let's put me to work for the week so I can have some, so it can be a working vacation." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So you can have some actual free time.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but anyhow, well, Andy, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah. Through our website at patriot-floors.com or our phone number 843-628-5905. And if you call that number, it's going to go to our sales coordinator, Nadine, but I'd be happy to, she can direct you to my personal number if needed.
All right. Well, if you're in the Charleston, South Carolina area and you need your floors flaked, epoxied, stained, or if you want your garage remodeled, you do the full remodel, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, I've enjoyed it, buddy.
Okay. Thank you, Dustin.
Yep. Have a good day.
All right. You too.